This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 107. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life Shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And good morning, everybody. Good to be back. It's snowing here in Salt Lake right now, and couldn't be happier. I was starting to wonder if it was actually going to happen or not. So I know it's been dry in a bunch of places, not just here in Utah, but obviously some spots in Europe. I've talked to a couple people and whatnot, so it's good to see some precipitation, and especially before we get to the holiday season, because that's always a good time to get together with the friends and the family and start sliding on some snow. So hope you guys are having a good one out there, and we're going to keep praying for snow and hope it's a nice deep winter. The good months are usually later on anyways, so all right, newsroom and notes. I've just got a couple things today. Our buddies over at Telemark, Colorado, let us know that this week, December 17th, there's an online premiere for the film tour. Details can be found at Telemark, Colorado/tour with early registration for people to get email reminders. The premiere will start at 6:30 Mountain Standard Time. And it will show all 5 short films as well as introductions from the athletes and an online raffle for a pair of 22 Designs bindings. So be sure to check that out. We've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, and they're doing some great things over at Telemark, Colorado, and awesome to see that they're doing an online premiere to kind of pull everyone in for a good time watching some Telemark footage, get everybody stoked to get out on the slopes. Shop news here at Freeheel Life. We've got new Telemark skier flat brims that came in. Majos are restocked, and the black Majos are going hot this year. So be sure to get a hold of those. They seem to be going fast. If you have any questions, you can hit up the crew at customer service at freeheellife.com and get all of the info. So today on the shop note, I've got Freeheel Life General Manager Taylor Johnson on board for the podcast again. Always great to have him. We're just doing a general catch-up on all things retail shop, ski manufacturing, kids telemark rentals, and more. So hope you dig it. Let's get on into it. All right, my dude. Welcome back as the regular Freeheel Life guest. What's going on?
Thanks for having me back. Good to be back on the pod. Another happy Monday out there in podcast land. Other than just being back, started to get some skiing in. Got a couple days on our new skis.
Nice.
That was pretty sweet. The actually getting those on snow was certainly pretty special. Like, I think just sort of even riding up that first chairlift with the Protector 95 on my foot that first day, definitely just the mind was racing about all of the things that went into getting, even a limited number of pairs out there onto people's feet this year. Like from, skiing that first pair of prototypes I had in maybe December, I think, of last year. That Todd from Seven Skis, who was able to really help us with the prototyping process and kind of mentor us through setting up our ski manufacturing facility. Like, it was kind of fun to think that even a year ago, I don't know that was necessarily the plan. Like that original pair of prototypes, I may have told this story on the podcast before, but that original pair of prototypes was really just like, I had a couple of characteristics out of another ski, with a Freeheel Life graphic in my quiver. I liked a lot about that, and just wanted kind of a narrower version for more of an everyday ski. Like, I think, unfortunately, we're not skiing like 2 feet of blower pow on big fat pow skis every day. And especially as a resort ski, like, I'm admittedly mostly a resort skier. Like, I certainly enjoy throwing a set of skins on and going for a, walkabout through the mountains with close friends and
I saw your first tour recently on an Instagram post.
Yeah, I did get out for a little preseason hike. It was finally officially ski season for me. I mean, we had been jamming here at the shop for, almost, the store had been open 6 weeks, I think, before I even got on snow. And we had a bunch of snow in October. Like, people were definitely getting after it. But for me, it was just, I don't know. I think I'm a little late to get onto the winter stoke. Like,
it's as you get older, dude. That's what happens.
I don't mean to say that in a bad thing. It's not like I'm not stoked about skiing, but it just took me a little while. It took me a little longer to get warmed up to the idea of winter is here. Yeah, everything went well. I forgot my poles that first tour.
I was kind of
funny.
I was wondering if you're gonna bring that up, dude.
Well, I was with my touring partner, and I said, "Oh, don't forget your poles." And then they went and grabbed them, and then as soon as we get to the parking lot, where are your poles? Yeah,
those were literally like two of the ugliest sticks I've ever seen. You look like you went to like Harry Potter land and found like the most gnarled, like weird, crooked. I was like,
well, you had to make
forest
do with what
did
you
go
got?
into?
Yeah, I just wandered up, found an old bush or something, and made it work. I mean, ski poles are a nice piece of equipment, I think, but I made do. But yeah, I was like, getting on that prototype ski last year, it was just like, okay, cool. I really was kind of like blown away with how good that first pair skied. And granted, that version of the layup was certainly tweaked a little bit towards just like my personal preferences of like, it was definitely made for me, but I think the starting point was really, really good. And then, you and I were chatting a lot last year of like, that ski project has always been something we wanted to do. I mean, when did we do that first run of veneer top? Was that year one or was that year two?
that was basically your first full year, I guess, 2015.
Yeah. So like,
yeah, I mean,
to go from that and those limited stuff we didn't really do anything with those as far as building them. Like that was all on Todd. And then like, I don't think we built skis that second year, and then 2 years.
Yeah, it was 2017.
At least a year between. Then, we did that small run with the more wild graphics, which I think were really pretty eye catching. And those skis were good, and it was cool to see like the idea was there, but I think the reality of it was it's like we were not nearly as involved in that process, and then like just the volume. I mean, what was it like? Maybe we did like 15 pair of those that year. Like, yeah,
it was super low. I mean, compared to, where we're at now, and I think that's what's funny too is like, we're hovering right around 40 pair that we made this year, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a pretty big jump, you know what I mean? And especially since we, like you said, we built our little manufacturing facility.
Yeah, it is like we kind of laugh at it. Like it's small. If anybody listening ever gets the behind the scenes tour of Freeheel Life, like I don't know what your outside perception is, but it's like we made do with the space we had, and got the tools and equipment that we needed, and like a ski can definitely go through there. The volume and repetitions for that, like, we'll see, but it's like, just being honest with everybody. Like, I'm not afraid to look at the kind of case studies of other small batch ski companies that have, made skis, maybe had some interest there. That second year, maybe they added, a couple more models, or, just went deep on the production and are all of a sudden sitting on skis. And, unfortunately by that third year, it's like some of those companies, are out of business, whether it's the third year, the fourth year, or whatever. And our plan with this whole ski project is very long-term. Like, I think sometimes the long-term goals are more slow moving, which can be tougher for some people to deal with. But I mean, our goal with those Freeheel Life products is that, like, I want to be making skis in 10 years and 15 years. Like, this is a long-term goal. And I think, the way we've planned around a long-term goal like that is we need to do it slow and work our way up. It was like in May of this year when I'm on, sales calls with everybody that was, gracious enough to trust us with a pre-order. Like, I mean, we've kind of just got to the point where even at 40 pair, we were basically like looking at each other thinking, well, I'm very confident in our ability to make a ski. I'm unsure of our ability as to how many we could make. I think there's a lot of people out there right now that, would love to get on a pair, and I'd love to get you on a pair, but it was 40 pair of skis is still a big chunk of work for us. And like, certainly by the 5th ski or the 10th ski, we're doing things slightly better and you're just more familiar with the tool and you can do things a little bit faster. But it's like, the amount of hours that go into a pair of skis, like, kind of a whole new perspective for me as a skier, as far as like what goes into building a pair of skis. And, as kind of a businessman too, like, I think we have a pretty good grasp on the retail business. That's basically what we've focused on for the last 6.5 years. And like, I think retail is always going to be an important component to what Freeheel Life does, but the manufacturing has kind of changed the way I have to think a lot. Like, that's been another interesting process of it. It's not just like what goes into the product and how do you go from raw material to a finished product that someone can mount up and go ski. But, that manufacturing is a completely different process for, not only myself as a manager here at Freeheel Life, but I think for the rest of the Freeheel Life crew of, guys like Nate or Miles or, you this past summer that were getting in there to that manufacturing facility and, learning each step of the process. Like, I don't think your average skier understands or can really wrap their head around all the little details that go into a completed ski.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree too. And we've talked a bunch about that. Like, I think it, especially in 2021, I mean, we're getting, I think, like a lot of things in the world, like, I think the easiest example that comes to mind is, especially in the last 10 years, is you hear a lot more like people don't know where their food comes from, and there's kind of this push for people to know where their food comes from and what's in it. And I think this is a incredibly similar circumstance. It's sort of like we've kind of gotten to the point as skiers and snowboarders and telemark skiers, you kind of just like have your skis, and I don't think a lot of people pay attention to like where they come from or like the cost or the workmanship that goes into it. So I think, yeah, I mean, you and I have had tons of conversations about that. I mean, just being up close and personal with the process is really cool. And now we're heading in, like, now that you've gotten on snow, and other customers, as they're starting to get on snow, it's going to be really cool. That I feel like that really completes the circle, like I want to start hearing that feedback. And I think that's what's going to fire us up to, keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep going and going.
That's sort of an interesting like comparison to where your food comes from, because I agree with that. Of we might not think of that. It's like we go to a grocery store and it's just, there's the meat, there's the bread, there's the whatever we're going into a grocery store for. You might not necessarily think about all the processes that went into having that available to a customer there in a grocery store. Even in other aspects of what we do now, it's like, even just being a vendor for another ski manufacturer for Volet or for Bishop, it's like, I mean, that's kind of like, we basically go to go to the grocery store and just say, well, we would like a pair of, Bishop Chetties, or we would like a pair of Volley Ultra Vectors, and, there they are. That's very different than, well, I want to build a pair of Freeheel Life protectors, and then it's go to the lumberyard and, go to the ski brands that sell the raw materials, and go to a printer that can print the top sheets and assemble all that together. Like that's kind of I never really thought about it that way, but I think that's a fair comparison.
Yeah, no, I think we're just getting further and further away, and I don't think we're unique as a business and wanting to bring people closer to like where their stuff comes from. I think that's always kind of been in our DNA as a business, like building industry and this concept of, making sure the money stays within. But I think also you're in a unique position too. Like, honestly, I was thinking this is I think your first solo podcast since we made you general manager. I mean, you're the honcho, dude, and it's fun to hear you start saying, you're looking at all these things like, yeah, retail, 6.5 years of experience. I mean, you've run that shop for a number of years by yourself. And then, but now you're looking at all these other pieces, and we're still in a pandemic, and you've got supply chain issues. I mean,
yeah,
you're seeing, I mean, it's an odd time, I'm sure. And you're probably seeing all sorts of weird, not just like we're saying, 40 skis, oh boy. And, like probably sounds like or at least I'm bitching and moaning about every single process. It's so hard, time consuming. But I mean, you're seeing both the labor, but also like sourcing the materials, and you're seeing that with other manufacturers in our space, which I think it's an interesting time for you to be running this thing, man. I mean, it's cool. I mean, you and I talk a lot more, but behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, maybe with the ski thing, we could have picked an easier year from a, supply chain standpoint to start that project. But the reality is, it's just like that's just a speed bump we have to deal with. If we said we're going to do this and we're going to figure it out, and, that's the set of problems in front of us now. And, there might have been maybe 2 years ago, there was, a great supply of raw materials, and it would have been easier to get the second batch of skis going, because like I said, I know there's people waiting for us to build them another set of skis or make another pair available in the inventory. And maybe 2 years ago we would have been dealing with some other batch of problems. And I think supply chain stuff that has affected our industry, like that's kind of, it's just one of those things that you just have to deal with, because there's nothing I can do to like really change that fact, other than just like adapt and take the blow as we go. Like with this year, I think it was sort of interesting from a supply chain standpoint that the European made products that we carry here in the shop, the Italian ski boots and the French binding and the Medjos, like they didn't really seem to face any supply chain issues. I think maybe with Italian boots, it was more last year that there were a few more delays with stuff. But the biggest hit in our world was 22 Designs. Was they were backed up on just some of their manufacturers that, despite those are all made in USA, they had more supply chain issues than anybody. They were waiting on their spring manufacturer was behind because, probably they couldn't get raw material 6 months ago, and their manufacturer's backed up. So that means they're backed up, and, they were waiting on like mounting screws or something, something that's kind of silly like that. But the reality of it is, it doesn't matter if you have 98% of a binding or 98% of the ski materials. Like, you need 100% of that product to like actually box it up. And, here's an Outlaw X, or here's a, Protector 105. And like, I think so far everybody's been, as far as customers go, like they've been pretty understanding of, it's just stuff is coming and stuff is delayed, but like the product is good and the product's worth waiting for. But I think, it is an interesting time to now step into a new role here at Freeheel Life, where there certainly is more on my plate, and there's maybe a few more headaches or delays with stuff than even what you would have faced the last couple years of really pulling the strings from up top. And we're dealing with it, and like it's been good to feel as much support from all of our customers as we have had this year so far. But I think everybody's kind of in the same boat, where it's just, if it's available, get it. If it's not, is it coming? If it's coming, do I need to get my name on something just so I have it? Like, I think that's wise. Like, even just there were a lot of people that did a pre-order on bindings from us, and nobody had them, but they wanted to get them from us, and I appreciate that. But we were all just kind of waiting, and it's good to finally see some of that product get in the door and get onto people's feet, because the winter is only so long, and the quicker we can get on all our new stuff, the better, just so we can get as many days on it as possible. Like, sometimes I like to say those equipment purchases are kind of investments in fun, and maybe your return on investment is slightly delayed this year, but that's not going to change the fun factor of once you do finally get all that stuff on snow. So
yeah, and I was going to ask you, like, what was the general vibe when you were up at Alta? I mean, does it just seem busy? Everybody's excited. I mean, because it's an interesting time. Like, there's, like you said, if stuff's available, it's a good idea to get it, and I think when people can get outside, they're going. And I just think it's an interesting time. Like, people are really seem like they're, I don't know, like, it's just outdoors and skiing. It just seems like everybody's as per usual, if not more energized. I didn't know, like, I haven't been up to the resort yet, so I was just kind of curious, like, what the overall feel.
I mean, it was definitely like, it seems like people are excited and people are ready to get back on snow. It feels like relatively normal up there again, like, normal in quotations, I guess. Like, I think our world is forever going to be slightly different, but it was like full mazes in the lift lines, and they're throwing singles on to quad up the 4-pack chairs, and like, people are excited to be back skiing. And I think, like, it's definitely been busy, but I don't think that's like, busy is kind of new normal around here too. And for better or worse, it's like, it's not like there's going to be any less skiers. And I think there might be other ways that people are trying to access the mountains, or if you have the luxury of being able to have a midweek ski day or something, like, being able to take advantage of that. But I think, despite all the headaches sometimes a busy resort can be, like, as soon as you get off the chairlift and make that first turn, like, you're not thinking about how you were just trying to smash your head against the steering wheel up canyon traffic or something. Like, it's things we have to deal with. But when you are actually back on snow, it's I think, like, why do people even go skiing in the first place? Like, it's fun, but, like, I think some people get a little more philosophical of, it's good to clear the head, or, it's easy to be very present when you're skiing. Like, it's something that you're willing to deal with. But, hopefully we keep getting a few storms. I mean, we certainly had a bunch of storms kind of early season, but it is Utah, and it will snow. Good or a bad year around here, it's like, it's still a good year. Like we do have
400
to.
the 400-inch bad year that everybody complains about.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's like
Sorry,
think
guys.
about other places, like, yeah, that might be bad for around here, but you also have to remind yourself how good it is around here, and that's another thing too. I try to keep as a matter of perspective of like, yeah, I was fortunate enough to grow up skiing in Utah, and like you're definitely a little bit spoiled as far as how good the skiing is, but like you have to kind of keep that in mind because if it's tourists or people moving here or just more people getting involved in skiing in the outdoor world, like if I didn't live here and I had the opportunity to come travel here, like absolutely I would want to come travel and ski Alta or ski any of the other like 7 world-class resorts that are within an hour of our shop. Like I try to remain, like I try to keep that mindset of just like I can't get mad at anyone for trying to come here and go skiing. Like there are definitely some crusty locals that I think just have a bad attitude about that. Like, dude, just because you happen to live here, like doesn't mean you own this spot. And it's like, I have had the opportunity to travel and go ski other places, and it's like, it's fun to see, a new spot and experience a new place. And, you hope to, as someone that might be traveling to skiing, that you're welcomed. Like I don't like that attitude when people get all grumpy about, this guy from, wherever he's skiing my powder because, I'm a local. Like I really do not like that attitude at all.
Yeah, I think it's honestly, and I think we're in a completely different era. I think that's always existed to some extent, like locals only, and these are my spots, and it really is different. The one thing, and I know this because it always comes up, but like the Icon especially, because I think it affects more frontside Wasatch. Epic Pass obviously because of Park City and stuff, but we're living in a time where your season pass lets you go so many other places, and I think people are, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of the days are gone where at the places like Alta, Jackson Hole, Palisades it's called now, all these big mountains, like if the terrain is there, like there's going to be a pass that lets you go there. And if you live within the vicinity or you're, an airplane ride away, I just think it's going to be the future. Now, I think obviously it's going to congest things a lot more. I think that's going to be the thing that's interesting, is like it's going to make it a lot more, like you said, the lit banging your head on the steering wheel, then waiting in the maze. I think once you get on the mountain, it's pretty, it's easy to get away from people for the most part in most of these places. But yeah, it is kind of a different time for all that other stuff, man.
I mean, I think, even just that, it's like once you're on to the mountain, and, even if it's your local spot, like, me and my crew that, all the shop guys and, just, close ski buddies and stuff. It's like, we know that mountain good enough that we can still kind of find our own spot. It's like, maybe you want to avoid the Blue Groomer if possible, because there's a lot of traffic, but there's a lot of terrain where you can get away from people still. And yeah, you get to the bottom and, there's a holiday lift line or whatever, but it's like, you're still able to kind of get out and do your thing. And, even in the backcountry where, backcountry skiing, the participation is obviously, blown up, whether you're fixed or freeheel, but like still there's a lot of mountain and a lot of space. And, if you're willing to walk a little farther or just get off the beaten path a little bit, like you can find a spot where if you need a little bit of space out there, it's certainly possible. But other like just general vibes, I think it just, I don't know, it seems like the telly energy is high. I definitely felt like that last year. Last year I had a few moments where we're cruising around the resort and it just was, like, I don't know who that telly skier is, or that telly skier looks like. That's, they've been on telly skis for 2 days. You can kind of just riding up a lift or something, watching someone coming down the groomer. It's like you can tell that they're sort of a newbie to the telly skiing, which is awesome to see. Like, I'm all for more new people getting into the sport or trying something new, but it seems like the energy is high, and like, I think it's going to be exciting to hopefully get as many people out on demo gear for their first day, or get them into a cheaper used setup for kind of their first foray of, do I think this is something I'm going to like to do? I might as well, I can get into a setup for a couple $100, and if I like it, great. Like, I can use this gear for a while. If I really like it, I can maybe upgrade to something, but just, I think, with rentals and used equipment, like, I think our intentions, even several years ago, were always just to try and bring down that barrier of entry, because I think, for me, if I was going to try a new activity that, like, a top of the line kit was, a couple $1,000s, or, whatever, like, that's sort of a hard commitment to something I'm not so certain of. Like, do I actually like this? Like, this is kind of new to me. I think having those types of programs or availability with equipment is really important, where, I think for sure you and I, but I would probably argue that the rest of the telly world, or anybody that's listening today, like, you would like more people to do it, because how much fun it is. And, like, having barriers to entry, whether it's cost or access to equipment or access to information, I mean, those are very real problems that, like, how are you supposed to get anyone else new into the sport if they can't afford, or they can't find, or they can't try? And, I think it was really awesome. Like, even in November, all of a sudden I was talking with Miles, and he's like, dude, we need to get some more kids skis. Like, with our season rental program out, like, I mean, we probably sent already, through November, we probably sent almost definitely over 30 season rentals out, which is just absolutely rad. Like, I was one of once a Telemark kid, and if you know my story, I started young and had mentors and dad and grandfather and kind of the rest of the extended family that was all on Freeheel. So it was like, I had someone there to teach me or show me, or just let me follow him down the mountain, and I'll figure it out later. But I think it's been really awesome to just feel that energy. Like, I haven't spent too much time down on the storefront this year, but one of the times I was filling in when it got busy, or covering somebody's lunch or something, just like, I got to boot fit some kids, like, brother and sister combo, and, like, just to see their eyes, like, light up of, okay, I got them in an old T2 that we had, a nice little soft flexing boot for them, and I'm like, had a pair of skis. I'm like, you guys want to step into the binding? Like, I'll click you in, and you can kind of wander around on the carpet down here. And they're just, like, screwing around and lighting up. And, this is so weird. Like, I can just walk around, like, my heel's coming up. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're doing. Like, just to see that energy, like, I get super stoked on that. And I think maybe part of that comes from, some of the work I do in the summer with coaching, mostly kids for golf stuff. Like, I get really fired up about that. But for sure with telly, where, granted, I'm not an instructor for skiing, and I'm not getting out with, a group of kids on the mountain, but just to get them into that equipment, it's like, super cool to see that, because I know how much fun I've had with tele skiing, and how many, cool places and cool people I've been able to travel to and meet. And like, it's fun to help be that kind of, that first entry into it of, all right, like, here's your setup. You got a mentor that is, your parent that, brought you down to the shop today. Like, enjoy it, and, chase them around. And like, I tell these kids, like, try and make as many tele turns as you can, but like, just go skiing, like, just have fun. Like, I think I have found some old videos of evidence that I was actually making tele turns when I was relatively young, but it's like, in my head, I don't really ever remember that. It's kind of like I just was on the gear and got comfortable with that. And I think, for me, much like golf, where my motivations to get younger kids into it is just like, if you're 8 years old, 10 years old, like, your lesson is basically like, how do we just have fun out here? Because you're gonna develop that technique, and then kind of develop an understanding for what you're trying to do later. And I think with tele skiing, especially for kids, it's kind of the same way of just, get them on the mountain. Like, if you're a parent out there listening, like, there is equipment available. Sometimes it's tougher to find, but whether you're doing a rental from us, or there's lots of like $50 pair of old small T2s, T3s, T4s, maybe even some kids boots like the Teledactyl or the G-Rex or the TJ from Scarpa that are floating around. But it's like, kind of the beauty of I think, for kids, at least with that used market, is, I mean, there's an abundance of, $30, $40, $50 pair of, size 23 T2s that, the boot might honestly be from, a T2 from 1999, but it's like, that boot still serves a purpose of, it can fit on their foot. It can get into a, simple, cheap cable binding, and, you can really get them mounted up on any ski. It's like, just getting them in there. Like, I think if you're a parent, and as soon as a kid says, I think I want to try that, that's the time. Like, I never feel like it's a good idea to, be like elbowing your kid of saying, this is the year to telly, you got to do this.
Your anti-telly indoctrination. What have I taught you, dude? Come on.
I'm not anti-indoctrination. I don't want you to turn your kids off by twisting their arm to do it. Like, let them make it look fun, and if they have interest, like, stoke the interest, but if they don't have interest, don't force it on them yet. I think the interest will come eventually.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I just think those are, not that I really see, parents that are obviously forcing a kid to telemark.
Yeah, who are you hanging out with? Like, are these parents
maybe I see it from golf parents that it's very obvious when a kid shows up to golf camp, whether the kid says, I want to be here and I want to try this, or if mom and dad said, you're going to golf camp. There's a big difference. Maybe telemark skiers are smarter than golfers, but
I was going to say, I wish we had that problem. That problem means that there's enough kids that actually want to be at a golf camp, that there's kids that are getting forced to golf camp, which I'm not condoning. I agree with you. I agree with you, but I wouldn't it wouldn't be terrible if there was a telemark kids camp where the majority wanted to be there, and there might be a couple that didn't want to.
I'd love that. So, I mean, I know we've talked about that, and I don't necessarily want to put out on public record like I would be right now, but at some point, if we can figure out the logistics of some sort of kids program or team, and you've had other guests on the podcast before that do that, with like KO or Tim Shepard, or these guys that are coaching these big mountain telemark teams, which a program like that would be absolutely rad. But even just like this is the Freeheel Life junior squad, or junior team or whatever, and one afternoon a week or something, we get to go skiing with these kids. Like, I mean, I would have such a blast with that. Like, you know, I'd be absolutely willing to sacrifice a afternoon of personal ski time to, you know, go shred with a bunch of 12-year-olds or whatever that are trying out tele for their first time, or just trying to improve if they've had the luxury of being on the equipment for a couple of years. Like, I mean, I would love to be able to get a program like that going where, you know, I think the interest would be there of, you know, just the fact that there's not, at least around here, there's nobody that does anything like that. Like, I think we could probably rally a pretty good squad together. But
yeah, it's crazy because and I've told you, I mean, I used to coach one on the Park City side, and then there was a second one at Alta for a bunch of years. I mean, you're talking 15 years ago though, or longer. Yeah, probably going on 20 years, but it can be done, and I'm sure it will happen at some point. It sounds like you're going to need more gear. I didn't realize all of that stuff was already out for the year. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's with the gear, like, you know, the boot thing is maybe tricky, at least for the real small ones of, you know, there's really only one mold, you know, or that's, you know, unfortunately not even in production for that size 19, that smallest kids boot that was ever made. But, you know, for a lot of the kids, I feel like that when that interest perks is we have a couple pair of those, you know, 19 Mondos kicking around for the real little kids. And, you know, I think maybe it was last year we sent out, or the year before that, we sent out a kid that was 6 on a 3-pin setup. Like, that's a little bit young. I think you know, that 6-year-old was kind of the outlier, but, you know, that 10 to like 13-year-old, you know, they're usually in a size, you know, 23, something like that, where there is some equipment available. So, you know, we'll keep hunting down as many pairs of, you know, small T2s and T3s and stuff that we can find, because I think that, you know, lower cuff, soft flexing boot is a good starting point for the kids. But binding wise, it's like, you know, okay, 22 Designs is, you know, willing to market that kid's vise, which has been super cool. Like, they did some kind of fun colors on the base plastic, and, you know, just set them up with soft springs, and that binding really adjusts down to pretty much as small as they go. Yeah, I think it goes as small as the boot is. So it's like, you know, that's there. And kid skis, like, you know, at some point, I think it'd be pretty rad if we had a, you know, Protector Junior, and could do a kid ski.
Oh,
but
yeah, you're
also like
you're signing yourself up for some extra work. I can hear it.
Well, that's community building and industry building. You know, those are big ideas. But it's also like, you know, whatever random pair of, you know, like kids alpine skis or whatever. Like, I mean, we can mount those up, and, you know, as with most of the rest of us, you know, for the last couple years until, you know, us, or, you know, like Bishop maybe is doing these more Telemark specific skis. Like, that's the norm of it's just a ski, and you put a tele binding on it and you're good to go. So finding stuff like that, like, that's, you know, that's just been cool to feel the energy from the youngest kids getting into it for the first time. Like, you know, I hope that they learn to love the sport as much as, you know, the rest of us. And by the time they're in high school or, you know, college age, like, you know, you're going to be absolutely just ripping. Like, you're not, and you won't even know when you learned how to do it. That's kind of my perception of it, is like, I don't remember the learning curve at all. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to, you know, get on that stuff. But, like, I think with any activity, whether it's, you know, tele skiing or, you know, martial arts or golf or other sports, like, if you're able to learn as a young person, you miss the learning curve, and you're probably more proficient because of it, of just, you know, kids learn quickly, or, you know, whatever. Like, the sooner you can get on that equipment, the better. And that's not to say that if you're older, if you're not a 12-year-old kid, doesn't mean you can't start, and it doesn't mean you can't learn to tele. But,
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you too, though, because it seems like one of those things that kind of fits into that you thing is like we've seen this resurgence of the movies coming back this year, and you guys just did like an underage show at the shop with Telemark, Colorado. Like you're kind of talking about like how these kids start young, how they're going to be great, you know, as they get older because they're starting younger. I mean, for me, I feel like that is kind of a missing piece that's cool to see come back as sort of this visual element, you know, of seeing great telemark skiers, which is always what people talk about in the podcast. You know, everybody that's been on the podcast is always like, yeah, you know, I saw not everybody, but most people are like, have this experience. I saw this great telemark skier and then I got inspired and then I'm going to go, you know, learn how to telly. But I think as a young kid, there is something to be said for being able to aspire to something visually, you know. And I don't know, like I wasn't there for that showing, but I was curious, like, were there some younger kids? Like, did you get any feedback from them watching, like older telemark skiers doing stuff, or
that was really cool. Yeah. So just to fill anybody in, if they missed it, so Telemark Colorado and really CJ was. I mean, I know there's a couple other guys involved with that project, but CJ seems to be taking the kind of role and spearheading everything with what they're doing. You know, he put together this tele film tour and did a couple showings in Colorado and then drove out to Salt Lake to do a couple showings. And we did a showing here at the shop on whatever Thursday night. And then we went down to a brewery Friday night, and we really did that Thursday night show at the shop. I mean, we don't have a lot of space to really host that many events at the shop anymore. I mean, we used to do a few more events when we had some empty rooms, and, you know, it's great that we have to use all those rooms for things other than just like hosting events. But it was cool because, you know, we had a handful of parents that were sort of asking us like, hey, I have, you know, my 10-year-old wants to come to this movie premiere, but it's Utah and you need a, you know, ID, you have to be over 21 to get into the big showing. So we had, I don't know, we probably had like 20 people at our shop that night. And I would say, you know, maybe 12 or 15 of them were younger kids. There were a handful of, you know, 18, 19-year-old kids. And then there was a handful of, you know, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. And the feedback was really, really cool of, I think, you know, they just to see what people are doing. And, you know, I mean, absolutely props to Marshall with King of the Lurk and all the crew with T2 and Greg Yearsley and Chris Ewart and Dayberry that got out for Why Not, and then Dayberry's Future Freeheel Part 2. Like, there were really some unique stuff in those movies. Like, not that people haven't, you know, made telemark movies in the past and really pushed it as far as what is possible on teleskis, but I think having that energy now is cool to see. Of the blood flow is still there, and there are people out there doing it, and it's potentially, or for sure, it's easier to produce something, you know, nowadays. It's like they also did this Your Edit Here competition, so they highlighted a couple, two guys that were, you know, just did a little season edit kind of, and some of the shots were for sure from, you know, nice camera equipment, but a lot of it I'm sure was GoPros and phones. And like, you know, when you were making movies, you didn't have access to that type of like quality, at least with, you know, these little mobile cameras.
Super 8 cameras, man. Just
you were
Super 8 film. I mean, we had to develop the film and cut it with a razor blade. No,
yeah. I'm not calling you that old. Maybe when you were making a video in high school or something. Like, but you know, just like how the equipment is a lot more accessible to do something and show people what you're doing was cool. And, you know, the feedback was really good. I think it was fun to just have kind of a, you know, good like winter kickoff party. I definitely felt like that was, at least for me personally, that was kind of the catalyst that really awoken up Telly from his, you know, summer hibernation. Like, I was ready to roll for the winter, and like it's super cool to see the younger people. Like, I didn't really get to talk with any of the kids, but I could just see from their, as I'm sitting watching the movies, I was kind of more people watching a little bit just to see people's reactions. And I could see the inspiration in their eyes. And hopefully those kids, quote, do something with that. Like, I hope that even if they just thought, wow, that was cool, like, I didn't know you could do that on tele skis, they might not be the next, Ty Dayberry that's a sponsored Telemark skier from age 14 to, present. But, even if they're just inspired to try something and inspired to, show their friends that might be alpine skiers what they can do on tele skis, I think that's really cool. And, that's sort of a long-term thing. Like, you're not necessarily going to see the effects of inspiring a 10-year-old kid to tele for many years to come. But I think that type of thing is important to keep in mind because, ultimately, like, we need to inspire that next generation and get them into the sport so that we have telemark skiers that are, middle age and have jobs and want to still buy equipment and maybe don't have as much ski time as they used to when they were, in college or whatever. But you need to keep that cycle going. And if you're not getting new people into it, like, really, like, then your sport actually is dying. Like, is telemark dead? Absolutely not. But if you're not getting new people into the sport, like, the numbers are dwindling. So, those types of community building events or providing access to the equipment, I mean, from a long-term standpoint, those are very, very important projects. And, even like the Friday night premiere that we did at Shades Brewing, which was, cool that Shades Brewing is a local brewery and the owners are actually telemark skiers and customers of ours. So, thank you to them for allowing us to get that event there. But I mean, they kind of did, like, the tele premiere was the headlining event of sort of a Pray for Snow party kind of winter kickoff thing they did. So, there were a couple other local vendors and brands and, like, splitboard brands and, Volley was there and a couple other, Utah Avalanche Center was there. And I mean, we probably had like 200 people or so at that Friday night premiere. And a lot of them were telemark skiers, but it was interesting to kind of get a new crowd where that's sort of like a mixed event with tele being the headlining event. I think, even just our little table we had there that night, we were talking to a lot of people that, either had never heard of us or never really thought about telemark stuff, like, just to get that in front of other people that may be snowboarders, maybe skiers, maybe have a friend that teles but never really considered it. Like, I think that was really cool as well, of getting, not like, we weren't kind of in our own echo chamber a little bit. Like, we were speaking to people that are outside of our world, which I think is also important. Of, again, you don't have to be that 10-year-old kid that we inspire, but you could just be whoever that says, oh, that does actually look kind of cool, and those guys look like they're having a lot of fun doing that. I think I want to pursue trying that. So, just to have that was sort of new for us, because I think when we do events like, World Telemark Day or, Demo Day events, like, sometimes it's just kind of the usual suspects a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with the usual suspects, but it's good to get some new blood or get some new eyes in front of what we're doing. Like, I think, although, we try our best with spreading the word and, spreading telemark and, promoting the turn, like, just to get some attention from people outside of our world, that's really the goal. Of, you and I know how much fun we've had with tele and know how much fun other people have with it. But if they don't know about it, see it, or have access to the equipment, like, what does that inspiration do? Like, it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. We've almost gone an hour, dude. See? Just goes like that.
Classic.
You got anything else with the shop stuff coming up that we need to get on the radar? I don't know if there's anything specific, but I thought I'd ask before we sign off.
Not really. Just, thank you for everybody that's, gotten a hold of us or stopped by the shop or gotten on the website or give us a call or email, whatever. Thank you for, trusting us to be your preferred Telemark provider. But we still got some inventory. Again, I would say if it's available now and this is the year to get something new, I would do that. I think you probably don't want to be sitting around in March wishing you would have got something in January, because that's when it's sold out. So I would hop on it. Just sort of is a difficult time to source product or raw materials. So the faster you can get on that, the better. Other than that, we're just jamming. We're doing our thing. If you've made it this deep in the episode, you probably know what we do, but we have a retail shop in Salt Lake. We try to keep that stocked with, the best Telemark gear on the planet. We've, jumped into this new manufacturing thing with skis. That's been a, new endeavor, and we're trying to get as many skis out the door as we can. And, fortunately, we have more interest than skis readily available, but we'll get them to you guys when we can. Again, I'm really excited for everybody's feedback as far as getting the stuff on snow. It was again really fun for me to finally get a pair of the production versions of the protectors on the snow. They certainly have some snow appeal. The top sheets and everything, like a little more eye catching. They're different. People have been asking what's on our feet, so that's kind of cool. Rentals, service. Basically, if you have a Telemark need, generally we have the Telemark solution. So get a hold of our shop crew, and again, we always appreciate the business, obviously, but appreciate just people out there that are stoking the telly fire. So keep it up, and we'll keep jamming here. And we got a lot of stuff in the works, so keep in the loop, get on the mailing list, throw us a follow on Instagram, whatever. But Freeheel Life is jamming, and we're trying to get as much stuff to everybody out there as we can. So we'll take it as we go, but appreciate the support as always. Other than that, I think I'm pretty much good. I don't know.
You forgot one thing, and I was going to mention last week on the episode after I got off, Joe Smith said he was so bummed that he forgot to sign off for you at Telete.
Oh, yeah.
You got to plug yourself, bro. Check out Telete at Telete on all.
Telete on Instagram. I'm back. The summer hibernation is over, and the winter content is flowing.
He won't be dressed in golf clothes for the foreseeable future.
I got a new GoPro this year, so we got the new Hero 10 Black. So you guys expect all the raddest new GoPro stuff. I was kind of due for an upgrade. What I had worked, but I'm excited to get kind of some new camera gear and screw around with that a little bit and see what kind of stuff we can get, because I certainly have fun with the content, and you guys seem to like to watch that stuff. So thank you as always for that. And yeah, Telete on Instagram if I don't make that clear.
I was surprised you didn't start with that, but I wanted to make sure that
maybe I'm not feeling the shameless self-plugging today, but
I love it. All right, man. Well, thanks for the catch up, and I'm sure I think you are my most regular guest, so it's good that you're checking in regularly.
Well, anytime. Happy to hop on, and obviously, as you know, before the podcast, we're worried about what we're talking about, and here we are, burned an hour pretty fast.
I know.
We can keep chatting for hours about tele stuff. So whenever you want to hop me on the next one, I'll be available.
Yeah, we'll go do some shredding and then do a little debrief.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We'll get out and make some turns because it is winter and it's time to get it while it's good.
Love it, man. All right, brother. Have a good one. Thanks.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Always great to catch up with Taylor and hear what's going on at the shop. They're doing an awesome job this year, he and the entire team, and always like catching up. There's always tons to talk about, tons happening. Now that we're in the thick of the winter and it's snowing, it's only going to get busier. So if you want or have any questions regarding stuff that Taylor and I talked about regarding the Freeheel Life shop, which is where we would love for you to be a customer, you can always contact the team at customer service at freeheellife.com. That's the best way to do it. Sometimes if you try to DM on the social medias and stuff, it can kind of get lost in the mix. So we try to focus it into the email, or you can call the shop, or you can stop by. Shop's open noon until 7, Tuesday through Friday, 10 until 7 on Saturdays, closed Sundays and Mondays. Check it out. For all your reading needs, articles, gear reviews, and more, hit up telemarkskier.com. Telemark Skier Magazine. This is also part of the Freeheel Life family, and Craig Dosty's there putting content out weekly, and we would love for you to be a subscriber over there for the premium content. If you want to just hit me up with Telemark stories, random reviews of what you're thinking of the podcast, what's going on in your area, and of course, let me know about events in your area, you can reach me at podcast@freeheellife.com. I'd love to hear from you. So thanks for listening. Always appreciate it. And until next week, spread Telemark always, my friends. Peace out.